We are the hub for news, results, and CEO interviews focusing the junior commodities sector. We provide market analysis and perspective that will help position you for solid returns.
Good morning. Happy Friday. Welcome to Stock Talk. We're just catching up with everyone. End of PDAC has just come about. A very exciting time for a lot of people. We got a lot of great feedback from the companies and the people that were in attendance. A huge attendance, by the way. And not only that, people recognized a lot of U.S. Government officials up looking at projects. It's kind of like we've been talking about some of the articles. So is it the beginning? Is it the start to people waking up to seeing, this critical need for all these metals and minerals? I hope so. I think this next year, regardless of what the markets do, I think we're going to start to see people focusing in on this energy transition and what that actually means.
I think it's showing a wider kind of acceptance in the mainstream of needing to go down this route. And, we've given credit to the Canadian government in the past, and they're saying the right things again at PDAC. I know they have a couple of representatives there, including Minister Champagne, who we've talked about before, talking about how Canada needs to embrace this kind of tax structure that the US is doing, design similar incentives that are going to make it easier for mining companies to grow. And, I think that's really encouraging because it opens the door for more investment, not just from the government, but I think when you see the government's going to put money into something, it then creates an opportunity for bigger investors to say, well, look, if the government's throwing money in this direction, maybe I should be looking down this path as well.
But this gives an opportunity for the generalist investor, like we like to call it, for the little guy, I guess the old term is, to maybe make some money. I mean, that's the great part about junior markets, is that they can be aggressive and they can be shark-infested waters. But if you follow a market model mindset, there are some huge opportunities. And we're certainly confident in the year ahead. And that's why we're trying to build out more direct conversations with our current subscribers.
Yeah.
That's our whole intention this year, is not necessarily just only to grow more people to take a look, but also to engage the people we have already to help them make decisions and follow the stories that are key to building out this huge rollout that we're doing.
Well, because even though it's a smaller market, it can sometimes be quite saturated and you don't know where exactly the best place to look to place your money is going to be. So helping people to break down and not just say, hey, these are the companies we like, you should throw money into these, but hey, what do you like? What sort of minerals or sectors do you think are going to be critical? Would you like to be putting your money into? Maybe you're someone who really just believes in lithium and that's the direction you want to go. Or maybe you want to kind of diversify it a little bit and go, a little bit into lithium, a little bit into uranium, a little bit into like a phosphate or something like that. There's different angles and different avenues that you can play through, but it's an opportunity because it is such a small amount of money technically to get into the market, creates that opportunity, like you're saying, for the average retail investor to take a flyer on something that could really move quite significantly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we see these U.S. funds in particular, and some of the Canadian ones giving grants, because the biggest constraint was, how do you insert a $20 million, $50 million R&D grant for a mining company to go find nickel or cobalt or high-grade phosphate or whatever it happens to be. And you can imagine, if it's a penny stock with 200 million shares out and you give them $50 million at 20 cents, I mean, that's a huge blowout of the corporate structure. So this is, one way they've solved that is just saying, we're just going to give grants to the companies that are critical in this phase of development. And we're pretty critical overall, and this kind of transitions us into another article from CNBC of China overall. And I have that China report I refer back to that is on our website. Go ahead, you just subscribe, it's free. But we see there's this headline coming out saying they've made staggering progress in renewables and a coal power boom. So it's an interesting little article that's very pro-China. And not that you should be pro or against China, but we should be, it's just interesting to see their strategy was, we're going to leverage as much as we can off of coal, ignore all of the green type of thing in the next 10, 20, 30 years. They've been doing it for a while.
Yeah.
But then they're going to have such a massive lead on all of this new technology, whether it's nuclear, because they're huge nuclear proponents, or whether it's the giant vanadium batteries they have for storing energy. It's, of course, solar and wind, but to a lesser extent. But they've had a huge head start. And they've never had to deal with corrupt. Well, they've got their own corruption, but the NGO, the types of payoffs, the environmentalists, all these that will stop a project dead. So China has the luxury of not having to deal with, well, arguments or citizens or anything of that nature. But we see from the research from the Center for Research in Energy and Clean Air, published last month, that China approved the highest number of new coal-fired plants since 2015. So to give that a bit of kind of idea of capacity, that's 4 times more than last year, and it's the equivalent of 100 large fired power plants. Now, can you imagine just trying to get one new coal-fired plant done in North America?
Oh, you wouldn't have a chance. I mean, like we saw it at least kick up a little bit in Europe, but it's a kind of showcasing of this strategy that China has, which is very different to kind of the path that the West has gone down of saying, we're going to lean into what we have to get us to where we want to go, as opposed to the idea of we're going to scale back what we have and slowly trickle into what we want to go to. It's this kind of, pedal to the floor kind of idea, as opposed to this like slow drip coffee is the way I would compare it.
Yeah, I kind of likened it that they were willing to take a lot of short-term pain, and I mean we can all see that they wear the masks over there because their environmental contagion, the air they breathe is terrible. But they're willing to do that because they believe they're going to be the leader in energy, because they've been working at this for a long time. And unfortunately, our media and our TV shows have been promoting everyone to go buy like Nikes and new phones every year, instead of saying, you know what, you should put your money towards building out the infrastructure and the energy base of your country. And some people are kind of coming around to that now. Yeah. But once again, they've been doing this aggressively for more than a decade. And even in a Reuters article where they talk about the future of nuclear power growth lies outside Europe and North America. I think today, the U.S. just opened up another nuclear power plant, but it's taken forever. And partly, yes, it's budgetary constraints and it's tough. But most of that budgetary constraints comes from lots of permitting, lots of legal issues, lots of issues that actually, if you watch our special with Rabbi Moskovich, he walks us through exactly how difficult it is to get anything nuclear done, even though it is by far the cleanest, safest solution that we have. And once again, that's simply because you're dealing with NGOs, lobbyists, and a lot of environmental groups that are trying to persuade people to not go that direction.
Well, and it's become such a dirty word in the mainstream. Like if you talk to anyone in my kind of age group about nuclear, it's this immediate panic that sort of sets in. Like, you're going to do what now? Yeah. Instead of a, kind of understanding of what you're saying about how it is actually the cleanest alternative that we have out there. And so you have this sort of built up fear you've almost been sort of conditioned to have this fear over this word. Whereas if you take a deeper look into it, there's actually so many benefits and such an opportunity for growth. But that's kind of what this article is then saying is, look, the most of that growth is going to have to come from China, from India, from Russia, as opposed to, Europe and North America, where there's actually the capacity to do it. It's just, again, this kind of preconceived notion of it and this sort of, taboo stream that they don't really want to touch.
Yeah, 84% of the nuclear capacity in China alone was built since 2010. So that gives you a bit of an idea of, and believe me, they're going full steam ahead. Once again, now that one could argue that's because they don't have to listen to the citizens. They don't have to worry about permitting. They don't have to worry about any of these issues. And that's, I guess, one of the upsides of being authoritarian. You just do what you wish. But part of this, the annoyance is that we've seen this lack of investigation and interest in actual science under the guise of scientism that comes from a lot of people that are thinking they're doing good, but they don't actually want to go do any research, actually look at any science, and immediately just listen to an opinion piece from a media source or someone they feel is a trusted person, and they just go without rhyme or reason, oh, okay, that must be the narrative. So once again, we never encourage people to just blindly listen to us and think that we're correct about anything. We encourage people to go and look. So go take a peek, go do a little digging and research to see, is nuclear safe? And you'll have to do some scrolling because the first bunch of solutions are going to be driven by a narrative. You have to do a little digging because the first searches on anything now is all big tech. They're trying to drive your eyes to certain specific stories. So this is part of the critical thinking thing that we encourage with people all the time. And that's something more we're going to do when we're talking with people on Zoom calls more as a group.
Yeah.
And we're still going to be doing this moving forward and talking about news, but we want to kind of really engage people and talk about, well, how can I think critically? Well, how can we search better?
Yeah.
Not only just what are some of these big stories and companies that are making changes, but how can I evaluate the news and see if it's even accurate?
Well, and it creates an opportunity for someone to ask a question and us to be able to immediately respond to it as well, which is something that we've wanted to do, that we wanted to target. And so we're building that out. And if you're on our subscriber list earlier this week, you would have gotten an email that's directing you to kind of sign up for our first of these kind of Zoom calls that we're going to be doing. And we're going to be kind of doing these on a wide range of topics, various different industries and guests that we'll have on. But we're really excited to kind of build that out and engage more with the subscriber base.
Yeah, and part of it too will be teaching that market model mindset course as well. So it'll be me actually live each time doing it. And it's a way just to kind of, once again, build out what we have with the people we have. We think we're facing, once again, it's troubling and chaotic and confusing times, but at the same time, we're more than confident in what we're looking at, the stories we're following, and we're excited for the year ahead.
Well, and to tie it all back in together, you go back to the, talking about the Canadian government opening up investment. That's another reason to be encouraged. And you're seeing, these are liberal politicians talking about this.
Yes.
These aren't your, resource-heavy conservatives that are out. These are, liberal politicians that are saying, hey, we're going to open up in our next budget the opportunity for investment into this. So it's exciting to see. The shift is happening.
Yep.
It might still take some time, but it's well underway. The excitement and energy that we've heard from people who are at PDAC this week, it's awesome. It seems like it's been a really great event, and things are trending in the right direction.